Hey guys and gals, this is Logan Freeman with the LiveFree Investors Podcast. I interview investors and business owners who share investment advice so you too can live free. Man, I got a special guest on today. I got to say, we've got a special connection. You know, over a year ago, I think it was, we probably connected. And I remember being on your podcast and just feeling so enlightened and lifted up after that conversation. Then we got to meet in person this January, which seems like years ago.
Yeah,
right?
it does.
Oh my gosh. But I want to make sure that everybody knows, what you're up to. So we'll get in that today, but also I want to give you a big welcome. Ellis Hammond is on the show today. My man.
Finally made it, man. Finally made it. And I'm rocking my Broncos jersey, in support. Just
got the Broncos jersey on, a little bit of the NFL. We'll see how that pops off. We got some games starting up here pretty soon. So that'll be.
I'm excited, man. I hope it happens. I hope it happens.
Yeah, me too. But Ellis, in a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do, man.
Yeah, I mean, very quickly, man, I'm a former, I'm a full-time real estate investor now, entrepreneur. We have two businesses. We run a mastermind community for faith-driven investors. And then we have an acquisition business where we're seeking to place capital in large multifamily real estate. But my story, man, which is what I'm excited to get into today and even talk about this book that we're releasing, The Mission of Multifamily. I'm a former missionary, college pastor. And that wasn't that long ago. It feels like a past life now, man. But it really wasn't that long ago where I was, raising every dollar that we needed to support our nonprofit and really had no financial education, no experience in real estate. And, in a pretty short amount of time, man, have really carved a space out for myself and our investors to really go and start acquiring some big deals. So it's been a really fun, man, to, get into 2020 and start doing this full time.
Most definitely. And I always talk about when, folks that need to work on finding their why. And, I try to take this in a different approach. And I use a framework called Ikigai, which is a Japanese framework that, I used to say it was the intersection of your greatest passion and your greatest strength. That's your sweet spot. But then I wasn't satisfied with that. I wanted to figure out how to help people really understand that why. So I started to share the message around the Ikigai, which is this Venn diagram. It's a beautiful Venn diagram of an intersection of what you can be paid for, what the world needs, what your purpose is, and what you're really good at. And it helps people kind of understand that why, and I want to talk about that with you because you got into real estate because you have a really strong why. So why don't we start there and then we'll get into our questions, Ellis. Tell us your why and why you're doing what you're doing, spreading your message.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, it really is this, I call it the mission of multifamily. I was a missionary, had a strong desire, man, just to live my life for a bigger purpose. Like I really wanted to live for God. I wanted to impact others. So I spent 6 years on the college campus helping young people build a foundation of faith that could really carry them for the rest of their life. And, we were doing that, I think about 4 or 5 years in. And one of the guys came to me and said, "Hey, Ellis, I don't have enough money this month to buy groceries." And that hit me hard, man, for a lot of reasons. This guy had entrusted us to come and be a part of our team. But the other reason why I didn't have the resources to help him, and I didn't know how to go build besides, hey, going and asking other people for money, what to really do to really not just help him, but how do we create capital that really creates influence in the long term? And so we just got hungry, man, to figure out how do we build wealth? How do we really create vehicles that produce passive income? And so real estate, of course, became a vehicle for us. And so, it is my mission today to really create capital, to build wealth so that we can create impact and not just us, but help our investors do the same thing. And so, that is a lot what drives me. And I told myself at that moment, hey, I'm going to learn how to become really wealthy, man, because at that point in my life, I was only really using time to make an impact. And I just see I want to learn and be able to, steward not just my time, but also my capital.
Sure.
And so, dude, our mission is really clear. We want to grow, create, multiply wealth. We want to use a system of capitalism. We want to steward all those things in order to transform cities, neighborhoods, and individual lives. And so that's the mission that we're on.
Yep. We talked about this at the beginning of our first conversation, that money is not the root of all evil. The love
Yeah.
of it is. And, that's very biblical. And I think too, money doesn't change you. Money makes you more of what you are. And so I had a conversation with somebody one time that I said, look, I've got a big why on what I'm doing. So I can go have that special word that you said in there, Ellis, was impact. So I can have an impact. Yes, you can have an impact, locally if you want to do that and you stay there. But really, I think that the time, the treasure, and the talents that God has really given me are a little bit bigger than the local landscape. Yeah, and I think that it's really important for people to think through what they want their impact to be. And, obviously, I've got a beautiful wife and 2 beautiful children. So I know exactly the impact I can have, through just being a good steward to those people and those relationships in my life.
Yeah, 100%.
So thank you for sharing that. What would you say the best thing about being an investor is on a regular basis?
Well, there's so many great things, man. I mean, in some ways I feel like I'm a treasure hunter, right? I'm always looking for kind of the next deal. It's fun. It's invigorating. I think for me though, so I'm an investor, but I also bring other people to invest alongside of us.
Sure.
I think for me, it's been the people that I meet, the connections I make. We're really trying to figure out how do we, we're on this journey together towards financial freedom, towards greater impact. And so, dude, I love getting on the phone, man, and just talking with new investors or even older investors and,
Sure.
and building those relationships, understanding hey, this is going to be a lifelong journey for all of us. So for me, it for sure has been connections, partnerships. I mean, even you and I, man, we probably wouldn't have developed this friendship if we both weren't kind of had this shared investor mentality.
Sure.
So no doubt has been the people, the connections, relationships I've made along the way.
I couldn't agree more, man. I mean, the best part of my job is getting exposure to people that are like-minded, but also putting that into action. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been able to elevate my social and just professional circle by 100 times over the last 3 years because I have these goals, I have this mission, and I'm able to align myself with people that are feeling and thinking the same way. And it's
100%.
It's a very motivating, but also inspiring thing to do on a regular basis.
And I think too, though, and I would say there's a second caveat I think it's really important that I'm learning more and more each day is that, and even if you're not an investor, you want to be an investor, calling yourself an investor is actually really beneficial because what an investor does, he provides value or he or she provides or creates and looks for value.
That's right.
And when, because the other, if you're not an investor, you're a consumer, right? So you're just consuming what other people are creating. And so as an investor, you are now a value creator, right? You're creating and producing value in this world. And so for me as an investor, which has been really fun, man, it's driven me to, educate myself and learn about different opportunities. And I don't know, it's invigorating, man. Real estate for me is just the beginning, And so, I think being an investor, the fuel, the fun of being in the position of where we can actually go and create value or provide value has been massively fueling this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, man. So obviously it's been an interesting year. When you think back to, my gosh, January and February, everything was kind of just, humming along and then boom.
Yeah.
March comes and we got a health crisis on our hands. And, and just the aftermath of what that has caused. And we're still going through it, obviously, but, keeping up with those current trends and opportunities can always be a challenge. So tell me your thoughts on how you've been able to maybe overcome that or even pivot your business, because of what has happened.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, for us, man, when we launched 2020, we really thought we were launching out of the full-time vocational ministry role to start our investment firm.
Right.
And I mean, as most people know, it's been really hard, to do that in a lot of ways. To overcome that, and the way that we may be compensated for that is we doubled down on our mastermind community. So Kingdom Capitalist, which is actually now Kingdom REI. And, we now have over 25 members, several billion dollars in assets being managed. And so in some ways, like, we're sitting at the middle of this community of folks who are doing deals all over the country.
Yep.
And so we're able to really get a good pulse on what's working. There's some ideas being shared that I would not have access to if I was just doing this on my own.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm constantly questioning our strategies. Hey, yeah, we want to go and buy a 7 cap in Kansas City, but is that really out there? Probably not. So then what do we really got to go do to get deals done? And seeing what other people are happening in our mastermind has been huge. So, I think this COVID thing has actually helped us because it's allowed us to double down our community. And we really, I think, have built a foundation. Because here's the thing, man, when you're in a membership of 25 people and all of them are active, there's no shortage of ideas or deals or capital. And so in some ways, I think we built something strong for the future.
Sure.
Of course, we'd like to have more things under management in 2020, but it just hasn't been the case for us. And, we're patient in that. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But I would say surrounding ourselves with the right people and seeing what they're doing all across the country has been huge.
Building. And what I really took away from that is, COVID showed me where my vulnerabilities were as a real estate broker. And, we probably had $15 to $20 million worth of brokerage deals in March just fall out alone. And, that's income that, was pulled off of the table for my family. And so I had to think through, okay, well, brokerage is probably going to be on hold for a little bit. What can I do? And that's when we really doubled down our own acquisitions and our own pipeline of investors and building the systems and the team out that we needed to be able to kind of execute. So love to hear that, man. All right. Next question. What's the best advice that you've ever received as an investor and a business owner?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing, man, that comes to mind, I got two, and this is what I constantly give to folks. I've already said, well, let me say the first one because it's a no-brainer. We've already talked about it. You need to start building your network before you need it. If you don't think you need a network in what you're doing, like, for you to be able to make that pivot is because you were already building a network of
That's right.
people. Right? Like, you wouldn't have been able to do that so easily and so readily if you didn't have contacts and people to call on. We were just talking about a deal we had beforehand. You need to make a huge pivot because your capital partner didn't have the money. So you made a pivot, and it's because you had a connection. So, like, the first advice, build your network before you need it. Second advice, focus on what you're good at. Your superpower, and double down on that, and then really try and partner with everyone else who is good at the things you're not. So early on, I've realized what I'm really good at, what I really like, and then what I don't like, and what I'm not good at. So when it comes to real estate investing, for example, I'm pretty darn good at marketing, branding, messaging, capital raising. What I'm not good at, or what I don't enjoy, is, underwriting,
Sure.
Keeping the focus or the timeline of kind of our deal flow and where we are in the deal pipeline. So I have 3 other partners, man, and they are absolutely ballers when it comes to all of those other things, lining up debt and financing, looking at deal flow and deal sourcing, making sure we're staying in touch with you and your team. And so, and then I just do me. I'm on the podcast show, right? I'm talking with investors. So that has been, and then that just keeps things going, man, because every day I wake up and I know what I'm focused on. I know what I should be doing. I know what I'm responsible for. And it's things that I love. I don't get burned out by it.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to give up a piece of the pie so that we can move faster together. And that's been huge.
Yeah. I mean, I think we share that, sentiment for sure. I have a team that does all those things that you just mentioned. Ellis, was it just rigorous self-assessment that allowed you to understand what was your sweet spot, or how did you kind of come across that?
No, it took some spinning my wheels for a while, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely hired a coach early on before, like, when I was making that transition, who kind of pointed out some of these things. Hey, Ellis, you're really powerful when it comes to connections. You're really powerful when it comes to building communities. So those things were placed in my mind, but, it took a while. And yeah, I mean, it definitely took a while to begin to see, like, what I'm good at and what I need to focus on. But I would say at the beginning of this year, I really realized that. We brought on a couple of new partners into our firm, and it's been great, man. I just look, I'm like, dang, we're really moving. We're always turning. And I would never be able to do all these things on my own. So I know a lot of people are kind of hesitant about partnerships, and I guess for the right reason, but I think at some level, man, to go fast, partnerships are the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, I early on was a big proponent of understanding and working your strengths and hiring out or partnering for your weaknesses. And I realized when I did a couple projects myself here in Kansas City, where did the energy, flow into me, and where did I feel like it was just draining?
Yeah.
And for me, it was more of a feel thing. But then I finally took stock of, these two transactions that I did and realized that, oh my gosh, project management, construction, leasing, all of these things really are just draining me and not really filling me up. And so, I think it was a big, wide open, eye-opening experience, I guess, because it's like, man, you don't have to do all of those things, but what you do need to go do is find people that are good at that and be able to get a values alignment and invest in each other to create something successful. And I've seen you guys do that.
Yeah, no, it's been huge. We, both of our businesses, we do that. And I'm constantly looking to hire people, even that sometimes I can't afford them. I was like, really, another person? I'm like, well, he'll do this, and I don't really want to do this anymore. We can go faster. And, so it's like, I'm constantly learning this principle, man. And, you can't give it, and early on, you might have to do things you don't want to do. And that's not what I'm saying. But,
Sure.
When I look at it, I'm like, hey, should I bring on a marketing guy or not? I'm like, well, if this guy helps me 10x my email list in the next 3 months, and I'm only going to double it, that seems like a pretty good investment.
Absolutely.
So a lot of it is like changing that narrative in my head to an expense to an investment. And same thing with our mastermind community. Like, I'm not really detailed when I don't love sitting down to write. And so I just brought someone on to write for me. I'm like, Hey, this is what I need to say, like, I'm going to shoot a video and then you write it. And it's been great.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay. So what I really want to showcase is the idea behind your new book. And, what brought you to do this? Why did you pick a book to be your vehicle? Tell us about that, man.
Well, man, honestly, I've been sharing this book for 8 months now. Like, it's my story. And I'm like, it really is just, how can I continue to share this story in multiple platforms and multiple avenues to get my message out, which is the mission of multifamily, which is we can make money and we can make an impact, and we don't have to separate those, and we don't have to sacrifice to have one or the other, right? Like, again, I'm a former pastor, former missionary, turned investor, and I just want to show people, like, for me, man, I did not have financial education. I had no one to show me, like, or tell me that we don't, that we could actually go and create a vehicle or build a vehicle that could have impact, like positive impact on people's lives, could change people's lives, and yet also could produce wealth and create income that could also impact other people's lives for the rest of their life. So, like, I'm like, man, I just want to get this message out to whoever will stink and listen to it. And so, we did the podcast tour for the last 8 or 9 months. And really that was the avenue that allowed me to just craft this story.
Yeah.
And so now it's the book. It's not a super long book. Most people could probably read this an hour, 2 hours. There might be a volume 2 where we go a little bit deeper, but I'm like, hey, this is, if I can do it as a former missionary, a former pastor, can come into an industry, then, and really find success, I think you can too. Because, man, when I was 21, my father passed away. He left me, my first investing dollars, which wasn't a lot, but it was enough to say, I want to take care of this. The only thing I knew what to do, dude, give it to a financial advisor.
Right.
So that's what we did for several years, with the hopes maybe one day, 30, 40 years, we'll have enough to be able to live off of.
Yep.
That just didn't sit right with me, because I'm like, no, I want my investing dollars to be working on my behalf of others right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I know there are other people out there that want the same thing, but just don't know where to turn. And I think we have a vehicle inside of multifamily that can do that, can protect your money, can multiply your money. And then it can also have, your money can have impact on others. And so, if the book helps get that message out and gets people into my tribe and my community, That's what we'll do. And who knows, man, I don't know what I'm gonna do next. Maybe I'll start doing billboards, like whatever, whatever it
You got to
takes.
do whatever you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay, on the billboard question, I'm going to steal a question from Tim Ferriss. That's one of my favorites. So give me one second, because I always have these questions up because I
know
love.
you're about to ask.
Yeah, I have to. If you could have a gigantic billboard anywhere with anything on it, metaphorically speaking, you could maybe get your message out to millions or billions of people. What would it say and why?
Wow. That's so crazy, bro.
Yeah, Tim's the best question asker I know. So,
dang, man, I got so many messages. I think so. There's three questions when we're talking, we're talking about business ideas. First question is, who are you? Second question is who do you serve? And the third question is, what do you do for them? And I think most people, man, they never answer question number one.
Sure.
Is who are you? Right. And for me, as a man of God, man of faith, I know that I am beloved. I'm loved. I'm created in the image of God. And so I think the billboard, man, would be something along like, do you know who you are? Right. Like, do you know that you're loved? Do you know that you were created in the image of God, that you're filled with purpose? Because it's when you realize that, man, then you're so much more free to really go and take risk and take chances. Because like most people are living their lives like waiting to accomplish something else to find purpose.
Yep.
Meaning like, I have to go have this success or go do this, or I need to write this book and have massive success in order to be confirmed as a, successful person. Where I stand from the point of, no, like, I know who I am.
Sure.
Right. Like, I'm made in the image of God. I'm loved by him. I'm loving my family, all of these things. And then I go and work out of that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that billboard would be really simple. Like, do you know who you are? Do you know what your purpose is? Do you know that you're loved? And are you really living out of that? That, man. And then, because then it gets really clear, who do you serve? Okay, well, then I figure out who do I serve. And then lastly, what do I do for them? Most people are still just saying, well, what am I doing for people today? Sure. And they've never even answered the first two questions.
Yeah, love that, man. I'll share you mine because it's very, very close. Mine would say this: know yourself, period. Love yourself, period. Because you cannot give what you don't have. That's and if you don't love yourself, how the heck are you going to love somebody else? Mm-hmm. And so you have to know yourself so that you can love yourself and then love other people. And that's not meaning people might read that and think it's self-centered. It's not at all. It's actually others focused, because you can't outpour until you know and you love who you are. And I love who I am because every day I know that who loves me, right? Yeah. I know he's hanging right here on my cross right here, every single day. I know that or every time I change my shirt, I got him right here.
I love it. I love it.
It's just like you have to know yourself before you can love yourself. And it's really, really important to be able to do that on a regular basis. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So this is your opportunity to promote somebody on the show. Maybe they've been on, and if they have, we'll have to go to somebody else. But nobody knows as many people as you do. So what other successful investor or business owner like yourself should be on the LiveFree Investors Podcast?
Oh, wow. Give me a sec here.
You can't say Hunter
on this show?
You can't say Hunter or Ryan because they're both scheduled already.
Oh man, this is such a good question. I wish I'd have thought you already got Hunter and Ryan, which are two of my favorite mentors in the whole world.
I knew you were going to go to those guys.
No, I'm not going to go to them, man. I got so many other guys. I got a whole mastermind of people who are doing incredible things inside of their business. I mean, literally, man, like I know you only want one, but I have 25 people who really are thinking about business and impact together. Like I have one girl who, her whole passion is to build a stop, like a pit, not a pit stop, but like a gate in India to prevent sex trafficking, right, to happen. So, and that's just one story, man. So think about Andrew G. I think about Megan. I think about Bethany. I think about Chris Coleman. There's so many great people that like it's hard for me to spotlight one, because when I think about our whole community, I'm like, man, these are people that you got to get their message out
I'm
because
pretty
they're
sure
really
I've done a deal with Chris.
in a bigger way. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
I think he owns
So
units here in Kansas City. I helped him get those. So
yeah. So anyways, those would be people I would definitely promote.
all right, well,
And I'm happy to send you my email list of all those people, man.
Yep, absolutely. That'd be great, man. Okay. Most important question of the podcast. This is kind of, what I built this brand on is living free on a regular basis. Not only living free from a financial standpoint, but living free of all of the different social media norms, all of the ideas that are put on us on a regular basis. So really living free as a human being, as like you mentioned, as a man or woman of God. So how do you live free on a regular basis, Ellis?
Yeah, I had a mentor. And when I look at like the ultra successful, those who really, are where I want to be in terms of my business, in terms of my finances, like none of those guys or gals really cared about money. Like what they were out to do was solve big problems.
Sure.
And I just like have to continue to remind myself of like, Ellis, this is like, you are not out to like go make the next dollar today, even though sometimes I got to go do that, right? Like
Sure.
you're out to create value and solve a bigger problem.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, man, like that's what keeps me motivated. It keeps me driven. Like it helps me stay focused on the bigger picture. And honestly, it helps me live free because like when I lose sight of that and now I just start worrying about well, how much money's coming in or whatever, I start thinking money is a limited resource. And I have to get my eyes away from that. And it's like, no, you create value because when you learn to create value, then money becomes infinite.
Sure.
Right. There's no limit. So in some ways, like living free for me is shifting my mindset from, I work for this to I go create this. I'm a problem solver.
Yeah.
And that's been huge for me, and then also, man, like really practically speaking, I try and finish work by, 5:30 so I can hang out with my wife and my puppy. I take a Sabbath, once on Sundays to really get away and break free and really trust God with my work. And, yesterday I went and played golf, for 2 hours on Sunday just to say, hey, like this doesn't have control over me. There's still other parts of who I am that I need to continue to be developing, like my relationships, like my social life, like my health. So those are some real practical ways I would say I really exercise that.
I love that, man. I love that. Spoken like a true investor. Ellis, if folks want to follow you, if they want to get on the book has not come out yet, right?
It will when you release this.
I'm releasing this on Thursday, so 2 days from now or 3 days.
Okay, we might have to talk about timeline, but it is going to be released on the 21st of September, and you go to missionofmultifamily.com.
Okay, they can get on a list there, though, right?
Yep, they can get on a list.
Mission.
You're making me do a little more work, but if it's coming out Thursday, go to missionofmultifamily.com. We'll make sure that when it's launched, you will get a copy. And here's the thing, look, we're going to give this away for free, at least for right now. We might looking to, charge later, but for right now, we want to give it away free. I want to get this message out. So if anybody's listening, you're intrigued by this conversation, go to Mission Multifamily, grab a free copy while it's still available. And that's a great way to you'll get some emails from me, I'm sure. Let me know how you're enjoying it. Would love to hear who you are. I'd love to hear your journey as well. So,
well, I can say that my relationship with you has just been wonderful for the last 12 to 15 months, however long it has been. I don't remember. Time goes by so quickly. So super excited about this book. I really am. Will there be an audio version?
Listen, man, it really probably won't take you that long to sit down and read it. So right now there's not an audio version.
There is
a YouTube channel that's following this whole journey, though. So you can go check that out.
All right. Well, for right now, we'll get the hard copy and we'll read it. Head on over to missionofmultifamily.com. Also, all you got to do is just search Ellis Hammond. I mean, you're just going to see pages and pages.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, if you want the audio version, like literally Google Ellis Hammond podcast and go listen to the 40 shows that I've been on to hear more of my story. Because that is, this in the written form. But the book, man, gets into some really cool things I haven't talked a lot about, like my mindset, the baggage that I had to identify about money and capital in order to overcome. And I talk about my new money mindset. I think that section right there, man, is going to be so, so powerful for people
Yep.
to understand the baggage that they have around money and really, transform or shift their thinking, because that has been the starting point, the line, the diving board for all of this. So there's some stuff in there, man, I'm really excited for people to get a hold of.
I really appreciate you sharing that. Guys and gals, this is Logan Freeman with the LiveFree Investors Podcast, where investors and business owners share advice so you too can live free. For more insights and ideas on how you can live free, connect with myself and with Ellis on LinkedIn today. Head on over to missionofmultifamily.com. All you got to do is search Ellis Hammond, and boom, 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 boom. Your ears will be filled with an incredible resource and just voice of today's time. I'm super passionate about what Ellis is doing, man. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Logan.
Until next time, guys, live free.